Hi, this is a video to showcase the Rubric1, which is form and site layout. This is a part of the user experience design section. The first one that I have noted in my rubric is form fields being loaded dynamically and the fact that they should be displayed correctly. So here's the site. We are at the home page. So just waiting for this to load. Give me a few seconds. All right, so I'm going to log in as an admin just because it makes it easier to access all the functionality. So I'm just going to use my persona name here, Joshua Parker. That's his username and password, and you can check this here in the blog post that I've given you. You will be able to find more if you want to test this out. Okay, so just using his username and password. The fields that were to be loaded dynamically were the checklist questions. I wanted the questions to be configurable based on the category of applications, so that if you wanted to add a new standard or a new question, all you had to do was tag it to a category, and then when you create an application survey based on the category that you have associated the application with, these questions would be automatically populated. So that was the intention behind putting up this dynamic form creation piece. So right now I will go through the flow once more, where I start with creating an application and then eventually moving on to create the application with a category, then creating a question and tagging it to that particular category, and then creating a app survey. That way you will be able to see all the elements come together in one page, one form, and you will also see the number of fields in the form vary dynamically, and the data that you've entered, in this case the question that you entered, will show up on the survey form. So that would be the intent here. So let me start with creating a new application here. So when I go to view all applications, there you go. So I'll start with creating a new application. I will call it a unique name. And I'll call it, and I'll associate it with maybe Angular and Java. I will name my persona Sondra Link as the owner, and I'll put up the status as green. I choose not to add a category, but we can remember the categories we have chosen. It's Angular and Java. This is important because now I will be needing to add a new question for Angular and Java, anything that we will remember eventually so that we can look at it in the form. So this is our new app. We have added this and we have put in Angular and Java. Now I'm going to go in and add a new question to one of these categories so that we can check if that particular question appears on our survey. So going back to the checklist questions, now we have a series of checklist questions here. We have lots of questions. So we have only two for Angular. Was this upgraded to new NPM version? Was this upgraded to later version of Express? I'll just go ahead and add one more question here, which would say, was this upgraded to the new version of maybe Mongo? I know this is an unrelated question, just to use this as an example. Before I do that, let me just go ahead and add a new survey, or just open the form for a new survey for this new application that we added, which was router engineering. So just going back to the page to show you what we just added. It is an app called router engineering, and the app name is 3RTE. The reason why I actually came back to this page was to just get the app ID, and we will just check how that is important right now. So when I create a new survey, that's the first thing that I need to know. I need to know the app ID. So from this list, I picked 3RT. That was the new one that we just added. We had Angular and Java for the category. And here we go. So we have those two questions that are associated with Angular. Was this upgraded to the new version of NPM? Was this upgraded to Express? And we have the rest of these are associated with Java. because I know this because there were only 2 questions associated with Angular so far. So we have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 questions here on this form. So if I choose to save this, there would be 7 questions for this survey. Now, before I save the survey, I want to add a new question for Angular. I will just go back to my checklist questions. You could also choose to add a question directly from there itself, but I'm just getting back to the checklist questions here. I'm going to go and add, is the new version of MongoDB installed? And I'm just going to select the category as Angular. You can choose to select multiple categories and this should show up fine too then. Going to save this question and I'm just going to scroll down and check if this question has come up. Is the new version of MongoDB installed? It's Angular. We have 3 Angular questions now, and now I will go ahead and create a new survey. I'm going to create it for the same application, 3 RTE. Now the best part of this is that multiple surveys are allowed to be created. There is no restriction on how many surveys you can create for one application. Since this is going to come up on a periodic basis, this was a permission that we had to allow. This is required. You can create multiple surveys. So we see Angular and Java. We had about 7 questions earlier, and there our new question has come up now. Is the new version of MongoDB installed? So now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So we see that we have 8 question fields now instead of the earlier 7. So this shows that the form is being loaded dynamically. When I save this, the form would show up with 8 questions because I just added a new one. So this is an easy way to configure the questions without actually impacting the other sections of the site. If there are older surveys, they would still retain the older amount of questions and the older wordings or verbiage of the question, and the new one would just take on the latest updated questions. So you're not disturbing anything. You're just adding things without moving a lot of features around. So this is a good example of form fields being loaded dynamically.